All right, now let's dive into the reverb and the delay that we might want to add to this indie rock vocal mix. Now, I think it's very important, and I think that you can really use this as one of the key takeaways from this course, especially here in the mixing phase. Don't underestimate the value of focusing and blocking out time to do specific tasks. Just like we've been doing here, we blocked out time to only focus on what? EQ, compression, and some saturation, right? And now we are going to block out time to focus only on reverb and delay. We're not doing a bunch of other crazy things or crazy automations or wildly detailed stuff, or maybe adding some extreme distortion or just some experimental effects that we might want to add. We are only focusing on reverbs and delays in this video. And I think that you will find that extremely helpful if you, at least to some extent, implement that into your workflow, because it allows your brain to focus and not be so scattered across all the different possibilities and all the different things that you could potentially be working on. So that's what we're going to do now, is just focus solely on adding reverb and delay to this vocal mix. Now this is going to be really fun because the beauty of boxing yourself in like this, where we're only focusing on reverbs and delays, is now I feel like I can really experiment and be creative, because I've created enough of a box, enough of a block to be like, okay, now I can really experiment and have fun, because I know what my lane is and I know what my focus is. But there's still so much room for experimentation and figuring out what kind of reverbs or what kind of delays we might want to add to this vocal mix. Now, I think what I'm going to do to start is focus on a reverb sound that could potentially work for the entire vocals bus. So as I walked you through in the last video, we ended up sending all of the tracks to their individual buses or groups, right? The O's, the background vocals, the lead vocals. And then we sent those buses to one more bus stop, if you will, before they go to the main output. And that is the vocals bus right here. So every single vocal track in this session is running through this vocals bus. And this is where we added the tape saturation to all of these tracks, since all of the vocal tracks are running through this. What I'm going to experiment with first is this top-down mixing approach. And you've probably heard me talk about this before. You've probably heard people like Joe Gilder, Graham Cochran, just these online mixing engineers and educators use this top-down technique. And it's just a great way because you can often mix much faster and get better results, because you often get a more musical sound when you do it this way. So I'm going to try it out. We're going to see if we can find our core reverb sound that could potentially work for literally all of the tracks. And then we can always layer in more reverbs and delays to individual tracks if we want to, or we can just scratch this entirely. But I'm going to try this out first to see if it works. Okay, so my method of choice here is to add an effects channel, and then I'll label this just reverb for now, since I'm not sure what we're going to call this eventually. Or wait, this is usually, let's just do that. Oh, wait, no, I usually color code these red. There we go. I'll just do that. So we have a return track here, also called, a send aux track. Here in Studio One, it's called an effects channel. And I've already talked about this in the intro to mixing part of this course, so we won't dive deeper into this. So we have our return track here, and now I'm going to click over to the vocals bus, send it to that reverb, and now let's just experiment. Let's see what we can come up with that could perhaps sound good with every single vocal track in this mix running through it. So Valhalla Vintage Verb, I'm going to just hit play, and then I'm going to flip through a few presets to see if there's something that gets us close, and then obviously we can make adjustments from there. So here we go.
Started up on a hill, story that would unfold and we'd chill. Every night was the same, you and I remember when you fell, I crouched down to give you help, you were fine. Just a rock that caught you by surprise. But inside each other's minds, pulling out emotions, and you and I were talking.
Okay, so I'm browsing through some different plate reverbs, and now I'm just going to switch it to the rooms here and see if maybe a room reverb would be better. That way I can, since it's been now just a few seconds ago where I was listening to the sound of the plate reverb, now let's listen to what the room reverbs sound like.
The sea during the night, you and I, not the same. Let's give it a try for a while. Turn back time. Chill. Every night was the same. You and I remember when you fell. I crouched down to give you help. You were fine. Just a rock that caught you by surprise. That was the first time I held your small hand, us back to health. You and I felt the vibe. It was time, go inside. We're inside each other's minds, pulling out emotions, and you and I were talking to sleep during the night. You seem, let's give it a try for a while. Please don't hide. You and I started up on a hill. The story that would unfold, and we'd chill. Every night was the same. You and I.
And then there we get into the more spacey here in this sanctuary folder here with these. But these could be interesting. Maybe, maybe we'll experiment with those. But I'm just trying to find a core reverb that we can use as almost our sonic baseline when it comes to the reverb sound on this mix overall. And I do like the way a couple of these rooms sound. I'm going to hop back to the plates real quick and see again what those sound like.
I remember when you fell.
They sound good, but if we're talking about an underlying reverb that touches all of the tracks, I think I like the room reverb sound better. And I especially like this long, dark 70s room here.
Down to give you help, you were fine. Just a rock that caught you by surprise.
Now I'm going to move up this low cut. That way we don't get all those low rumbling reverb frequencies.
That was the first time I held your small hand, us back to health. You and I felt the vibe. It was time, go inside. We're inside each other's minds, pulling out emotions, and you and I were talking to sleep during the night.
Okay, here's without it.
You and I,
Right, there's without the reverb.
not the same. Let's give it a try for a while. Turn back time.
And then here's with it.
You and I, you and I,
like that.
not the same. Let's give it a try for a while. Please don't hide. You and I.
And even for that part, right? It's adding this room reverb to literally everything because we are starting from this vocals bus here, which has all of the vocal tracks running through it. And then we're sending a copy of what is going through this bus to this return track with this reverb on it. And I really like the way this sounds, especially as a starting point. And using this top-down approach, we now have almost a blanket reverb or an umbrella reverb that covers everything, but now we can really dive into the individual tracks to create some differentiation and just more interest on the individual track level. But I think as a starting point, this is great. I really like this.
About us, how we should just be friends, you and I. Not the same, who knows why, though it's fine. And we made it work for a while. Then one night you said it was time, no more vibe. You stopped time and started to cry.
Okay, perfect. So now we have a room reverb on the vocals bus, or at least all the vocals are being sent through that room reverb. All right, now I think what I'm going to do is focus in and hone in on the lead vocal, and then we'll start to just expand out from there. So I'm going to solo the instrumental against that lead vocal, and then we'll just mute everything else for now. Let me also turn on this chorus lead for when that comes in, and let's see what we might want to do here.
Started up on a hill, story that would unfold and we chill.
Okay, now, if you've watched any of my indie rock stuff for any length of time, you know how much I love to use slap act delays for pretty much any track, guitars, vocals, especially in the genre of indie rock. So let's test that out. Let's see if a slap delay sounds good or not on this. So we'll add another effects channel here, and then this will be our slapback delay, which I tend to think of slapback delay more so as a reverb because it kind of sounds like a room reverb to a degree. So for this, I'll just use my Valhalla delay, just my go-to delay, and put this to 100%. I'll bring this down to somewhere in here, and then we can mess with it from here. Bring the feedback pretty close to 0. Turn up the drive a little bit. Maybe do something like this. See what this does.
Every night was the same.
And then I will need to, of course, send the lead vocal to it. So let's come in here to the slap. Okay.
You and I
Right? Isn't that cool?
remember when you fell. I crouched down to give you help. You were fine, just a rock.
And I like that it's mono, I think. Or let's test it out. Let's see what happens if we make that sound stereo, which I'm just changing the style now to dual, which gives us a left delay and a right delay. And then I'm going to offset these slightly. That way you get a stereo sound. Now I think I'm going to like the mono better, but we'll see.
To cut you by surprise. That was the first time
Yeah, I think I like
I
the...
held your small hand.
It's just more focused. It sounds older. It sounds more vintage, right?
Us back to how you and I felt the vibe. It was time go inside. Went inside each other's minds, pulling out emotions.
All right, I'm gonna test this out. I switched the mode to duck tape because I want to see if using the ducking feature here in Valhalla Delay, which is basically like a sidechain compressor, to see if that helps tighten up the sound against the slap delay.
Started up on a hill, story that would unfold and we chill. Every night.
Now, what this ducking is doing is simply when the lead vocal is performing, this delay is ducking down so that it makes room, so that it's a bit of a cleaner sound. And then as soon as that lead vocal lets go, or there's a gap in between the phrases, then this slap delay can come back to a full volume. But it's a bit more difficult to make something like this work with the slap delay because it's such a quick delay. So I don't even know if this is going to really add anything, but we'll see.
You and I remember when you fell. I crouched down to give you help. You were fine.
Yeah, I don't think it's really adding anything because if I really turn up the ducking, then we lose pretty much all the slap delay anyway. So that's not really giving us anything we need there, but I can still keep it on the duct tape setting. We're not losing anything. And let's see.
Just a rock that caught you by surprise.
I think there's a bit too much high frequencies popping through. So let's just do this.
Started up on a hill, story that would unfold and we chill. Every night was the same, you and I remember when you fell. I crouched down to give you help. You were fine, just a rock that caught you by surprise. Started up on a hill, story that would unfold and we chill. Every night was the same, you and I remember when you fell. I
Okay, do I like this? Let me turn this off.
My surprise.
Alright, so there's kind of that sound.
That was the first time I held
Just with it.
your small hand us back to health, you and I.
It sounds cool. It sounds a little bit distracting with the particular settings
Felt the
here.
vibe, it was time, go inside.
Maybe we just need to change the
What's
style.
inside each other's minds, pulling out emotions, and you and I were talking endlessly during the nights.
See, I think that sounds better. Changing this to lo-fi mode, we don't have now as much of those annoying frequencies popping through, and it sounds a bit more. It has a more of a mellow quality to it that I think fits better and sits better in this mix.
You and I,
Yeah, I like that.
not the same, let's give it a try for
And then we of course just need to turn it down. So let's turn down this
a
send.
while, turn back time. You and I, not the same, let's give it a try for a while, please don't hide.
See, there's without it.
You and I,
It's fine, but if you add it in here, come over here.
caring what others said about us, how we should just be friends, you and I, not the same, who knows why, though it's fine.
Yeah, I love the sound of a good slap delay. And I think, based on what I'm hearing now, I really do think it's adding something cool to this vocal sound. So we've added a room reverb to all of the vocals, and then we added a slap delay to the lead vocals bus here, which has both the verse lead and the chorus lead. So now what I'd like to do is, okay, we have a slap delay on this return track over here. Now let's see, before we move on to anything else, do we want to add that slap delay to any of the other vocal tracks in this mix? So let's just see if we do. So let's see what happens if on just the background vocals bus overall, maybe, if we add the slap delay to that. Let's see. So I'm going to send a copy of the background vocals bus to that slap delay, and we'll see what that sounds like. Let me find a spot where there's lots of background vocals here.
You and I, not the same, I'll take the blame one more time, please don't hide.
I don't know if we need it though.
Blame one more time, please don't hide.
Yeah, I don't think we need it there. It just adds another layer of this, because the slapback delay can create a sort of warbliness if you overuse it on too many tracks in your vocal mix. So I think it's going to sound better if we just use it for the lead vocal, but not on anything else. Okay?
You and I, it was different, you and I, not the same, only you know why.
Okay, now what I'm going to try to do here is I'm going to focus back on this room reverb, because I really feel like I want to make this room reverb sound like it was from the 70s or the 60s. I want to give this room reverb just the most vintage sound possible. So let's dive deeper into that. I think we can do it. I think we are going to be able to do this, and I think it's going to sound awesome, because that is what my ears want to hear. And it's coming.
Not the same, I'll take the blame one more time, please don't hide.
Okay, so the first thing,
You and I,
we add some more high end to it. And I'm gonna add an EQ to the reverb channel here. So now we're just EQing the reverb signal, and we want to probably roll off a bunch of low end so that you just get that sheen, crispy high end.
I'll take the blame one more time, please don't hide.
You know, that type of thing.
You and not the same, I'll take the blame one more time, please don't hide. You and
I'm gonna do is let's see what it sounds like with a little bit of RC20 on this reverb. Again, this is on the reverb signal itself. And we are just trying to make this reverb sound super, super old. So maybe even go for like the cassette settings here. Without all that. Let's turn that off.
You and I, not the same. Only you know why. Though I don't mind, it wasn't always the time. Even though I said it to you that.
That's such a cool sound. Oh my god, I need to make time to experiment a little bit before we wrap up this video with stuff like that. Because, and again, if you ever wondered why put reverbs and delays on return tracks, this is why. It allows you to experiment with sending only the reverb signal through crazy other things that you might want to add just to create a unique sound, right? Anyway, let's focus back on.
Let's give it a try for a while. You and I, not the same. I'll take the blame one more time. Please don't hide.
So here's without the RC20.
You and I, not the same. I'll take the blame one more time. Please don't hide. You and I.
Okay, now let's try making this even more mono than it already is and see if that helps as well. Because when you make a reverb sound mono, that's a great way to give it a vintage feel. So let's see what happens.
What we both wanted was different.
Yeah. The power of a mono reverb, my friend. Listen to this.
Not the same.
How old does that sound? Isn't that cool?
Though I don't mind, it wasn't always the time. Even though I said it to you that at night, you and I. Did we actually have it? You and I. Not the same. I'll take the blame one more time. Please don't hide. You and I.
Let's come back here.
You and I. To give you help, you were fine.
Isn't that a cool sound?
Walk the cut, you my surprise.
Maybe the tail is a little too long on this room reverb, so maybe swing this back slightly.
That was the first time I held your small hand us back to health. You and I felt the vibe. It was.
I mean, listen to the difference between without the RC20 and the binaural pan. Just to make this sound mono, you can add any plugin to get this effect that can turn the signal mono. And here's without those two plugins,
Time go inside.
right? And here's with.
Words inside each other's minds, pulling out emotions, and you and I were talking the sleep during the nights. You and I, not the same. Let's give it a try for a while. Turn back time.
And then, now the slap delay is not completely mono, but I think that might be all right because since we already have that super mono room reverb, with the slap being slightly wider, I think that sounds fine.
You and I, you and I, not the same. Let's give it a try for a while. Please don't hide. You and I.
Yeah, I love what we got here, man. This is sounding nice. I really, really like this. Okay, so we have our overarching reverb, right? Which we just turned into mono to sound super old and super vintage. And then we've got the slap delay on the verse, or no, on the lead vocal. which includes both the verse and the chorus lead. So now let's dive into experimenting with a couple options in terms of delay. Now we have the slap delay, but again, I tend to think of that more as a reverb. But now let's see if we need to add some type of delay, which we definitely probably do want to add it during the chorus. But I'm going to start it just with the lead vocal overall, maybe a bit more of a subtle type of delay that can run underneath everything. We'll start there, and then obviously we can adjust it as we go. So I'll just start this as delay, color code this like the rest, and then once again I'll pull in Valhalla delay. It's just my go-to delay. Okay, so let's come back here and see what we can come up with. Here, lead vocal, sending it to that delay. I don't know why I'm doing it this long way. I could have just dragged the plugin into the sends area, then it would have automatically created an effects channel, but at least you get to see kind of how to create that return track using an effects channel here in Studio One. Anyway, so we got that delay there, and now let's browse through a few delays to see if there's something that we might like.
Started up on a hill, story that would unfold and we'd chill. Every night was the same, you and I remember when you fell, I crouched down to give you help, you were fine. Just a rock that caught you by surprise. That was the first time I held your small hand us back to health, you and I felt the vibe, it was time, go inside. Oh, please don't hide. You and
You hear that?
you and I, not the same, let's give it a try for a while, please don't hide.
That sounds great. Doesn't that sound nice? So we could use this preset, this delay sound. We would need to automate it because the power of this type of delay really is in the automation of it, because we don't need it here.
That was the first time I held your
Right? It's almost more distracting there, but if we turn it off there and bring it in here,
you and I, not the same, let's give it a try for a while, please don't hide. You and
that sounds really, really good to me. It really does. So what I'm going to do, even though this isn't about automation as much, but this is an important automation move, so I'm going to go ahead and make that now on this delay. So we're only going to send the lead vocals to that delay. So we need to automate the send for the lead vocal here so that that delay only turns on at certain parts of the song when I want it to. So as I click here, that pops it up here, and then automate, hit the A, that creates an automation lane for us. And now it's on now. So if it's up here, it's turned off. So we'll come over here.
during the nights, not the same, let's give it a try for a while, turn back time. You and I,
Yeah, so I want to bring it in there.
you and I, not the same, let's give it a try for a while, please don't hide. You and
And then we'll turn it off again. And then
hearing more up, not care,
now.
your small head.
Yeah. So then we'll just do it again over here.
Why is it going on? He made it work for a while. Then one night you said it was time, no more vibe. You stopped time and started to cry. Why is it going away? Who made it this way? The spark that we worked for so hard is completely lost, now in the dark, you and
I think there we want to bring it in. So
You and I,
Yeah.
not the same. Let's give it a try for a while. Turn back time. You and I, not the same. I'll take the blame one more time. Please don't hide. You and I, you know why.
And then we turn it off again and come over here.
You and I, give it a try for a while. Turn back time. You and I.
And then for the last chorus here.
You and I, not the same. I'll take the blame one more time. Please don't hide. You and I. Summer's about to wind down. The story won't ever have an end until you and I.
Yeah, that is such a cool delay sound, isn't it? So, and it's extra powerful because we're automating it to only come in during certain sections.
You and
So,
I,
right? So like here.
you and I.
Now I'm feeling like I want to add like a little phasiness, maybe a little chorusy, just a taste to give it an extra vibe with that delay signal. So maybe even inside the delay plugin itself, we can just adjust the mod here, the modulation.
Not the same, let's give it a try for a while. Please don't hide. You and I. Let's give it a try for a while. Please don't hide.
It's not quite giving me what I want. So let's see what happens if we actually put a phaser on this delay channel.
Not the same, let's give it a try for a while. Please don't hide. You and I.
Yeah, it's a bit more, it moves a bit too much. Maybe more like a flanger is what we need.
Not the same, let's give it a try for a while. Please don't hide.
Yeah, I think a phaser is a little bit too aggressive for this. And instead, maybe what we need is a flanger type of plugin. Let's try that.
You and I. Not the same, let's give it a try for a while. Please don't hide.
Something like that, where it's not, where the mix is not at 100% on this flanger, but something like.
Not the same, let's give it a try for a while. Please don't hide. You and I. Not the same, let's give it a try for a while. Please don't hide.
What I also want to do is the ducking feature here. I'm going to crank that even more. That way, when that vocal is singing, it really turns down this delay.
You and I.
Let's come over here again.
You and I. Not the same, let's give it a try for a while. Please don't hide.
And I think we also need, well, it already has the drive there cranked pretty good. So maybe we need to actually add some saturation using the saturation knob.
You and I. Not the same, let's give it a try for a while. Please don't hide. You and I.
Kind of, you know, just to give it some sizzle, right? Now I turn it up a good bit, so we need to, I'll just go ahead and turn down the amount of the delay that we're sending it to.
Not the same, let's give it a try for a while. Please don't hide. You and I.
Now, one thing we need to do is add a little bit of space. And again, this is the value of having return tracks. You can reuse and repurpose the same reverb or the same delay. And so I'm going to send this return track to that reverb just to add a bit of space to this slap delay sound itself, or not the slap delay, this delay sound rather.
Not the same, let's give it a try for a while. Please don't hide. You and I. Not the same, let's give it a try for.
Actually, because this delay sound is stereo and that reverb is so mono, it's too disconnected. So I think we just want to add a small amount of reverb, which maybe it'll just work. Well, no, because we already have the flanger and the saturation. I was gonna say maybe we could turn up the diffusion inside this delay plugin, which is essentially just a reverb, but I don't want to mess anything else up because I already know what it sounds with the flanger and the saturation, and that is, it's going to affect the way that those plugins work. So I don't really want to touch that. So I'm just going to add a reverb at the end. I'll just go for little plate, and we'll see if that gives us what we want. Anytime when I want just a quick plate reverb, this is my go-to. I love this plugin. It's so easy to use. And let's see what we can come up with here.
Not the same, let's give it a try for a while. Please don't hide. You and I. Not the same, let's give it a try for a while. Please don't hide.
Okay, even with the ducking feature, there's still too much of that delay popping through. So what I'm gonna have to do is do some more automation and have it only come through really precisely when I want that delay to pop through. So let's come back to this automation lane we had before, and I just need to do some additional work on it.
You
So
and I.
obviously that will stay, but then here,
Not the same, let's give it a try for a while. Please.
and then on Please Don't Hide, we'll bring it back. That way we can get that delay on the Please Don't Hide.
Please don't hide.
See, it's cleaner because now for this stretch right here, there's none of that delay running underneath it and kind of mucking it up, because we turned it off with the automation line being up here.
Not the same, let's give it a try for a while. Please don't hide. You and I. Not the same, let's give it a try for a while. Turn back time.
And then again, turn back time. I'm gonna bring it back in.
Turn back time. Turn back time. You and I. You and I. Not the same, I'll take the blame one more time. Please don't hide.
Do you notice how much it mucks it up during this part of the song where there's a lot of lyrics in a short amount of time? With that delay being active, it just kind of muddies it up a little bit. So I'm going to turn it off again there, bring it back on Please Don't Hide. So we'll do this.
One more time, please don't hide. You and I.
Yeah, that sounds so nice.
You and I. Not the same, I'll take the blame. One more time, please don't hide. One more time.
And one more time. Staying true to the song one more time. We need to do it here.
Time, please don't hide. You and I.
And then we are good with that delay. So now it's just a matter of dialing it in, and I am going to do some additional volume automation probably on this once we get to the automation phase of this vocal mix in terms of how loud it is, right, in different parts of it. And what I mean by that is on places like this,
You and I.
maybe I'll ride it up a little bit for as it fades away here. Going into that section now. So there's some different volume automation things we can do there. Now, is there too much high end on this delay right now?
You and I. Not the same, I'll take the blame. One more time, please don't hide. You and I. You and I, not to say I'll take the blame one more time. These are high.
Sounds still a little too clean, right? I think we need some more grit, so maybe crank the saturation knob again.
You and
And maybe we need to put the saturation before the flanger. That way.
not to say I'll take the blame one more time. These are high. You and
I also think this flanger setting is not a great setting to use here. That would definitely not be better. Maybe we just need a chorus. Or maybe not anything at all. Let's see.
You and I, not to say I'll take the blame one more time. These are high.
Okay. I know it's going to sound fine because, again, we do have some of that modulation effect already coming from the delay plugin. But I do want to see if it adds anything pleasant by adding a chorus. So let's go for this chorus plugin here and see if this does anything.
You and I, not to say I'll take the blame one more time. These are high.
Yeah, it's just not quite adding enough for me to feel like it's worth being in there. So I think we're just gonna leave it like this. I think that sounds fine.
You and I, not to say I'll take the blame one more time. These are high. You and you and I.
Now, the key thing when it comes to this type of telephonic delay sound, right? Notice how the low cut on this is all the way up at 11, like 1.1K, 1120 hertz. So it is rolling off all of the low end on this delay sound. And we're also then rolling off some of the high end down to about close to 4.5K. And that's what creates that nice, thin, telephonic type of sound where you don't have a bunch of high end and you don't have a bunch of low end. And it just sits in the mix very nicely. Yeah, as I was talking about before, we're going to have to automate the... Let me actually come in here and just use a mix tool plugin because when we added the saturation knob, it added so much volume to it. So let's just kind of decrease it here. That way we don't have to have the delay send be turned so low.
You and I, not the, you stopped time and started to cry. Why is it that we walk for so hard, you and I? Not the same, let's give it a try for a while, turn back time. You and I, not to say I'll take the blame one more time. These are high. You and I.
Yeah, really, really like what we have there. So we've added a delay that is automated. We have a slap delay on the lead vocals. And then we've got, obviously, that mono retro room reverb across all of the vocal tracks. And, I mean, I think... Do I need to add anything else right now?
Started up on a hill. Story
Maybe a little bit of... Well...
that would unfold and we chill. Every night was the same, you and I remember when you fell.
I'm going to just try one more thing out just to see if this song can benefit from one more delay. And it would be a very subtle delay, but just to add a tiny bit of space, perhaps, to this mix. It's pretty much from start to finish. Like this wouldn't be the type of delay you would automate, I don't think. Just kind of underneath everything as a printed part of the song. So let's see perhaps what we can come up with.
Started up on a hill.
like this, maybe?
That was the first time I held your small hand us back to health. You and I felt the vibe, it was time to go inside. Went inside each other's minds, pulling out emotions, and you and I were talking endlessly during the nights. You and I, not the same, let's give it a try for a while, turn back time.
Maybe a ping pong delay?
You and I, you and I, not the same, let's give it a try for a while, please don't hide. You and I started up on a hill, story that would unfold and we'd chill. Every night was the same, you and I.
I don't think I like that one in particular.
I remember when you fell, I grabbed you down to give you help, you were fine. Just a rock that cut you by surprise. That was the first time I held your small hand us back to health. You and I felt the vibe, it was time to go inside. That was the first time I held.
Okay, this could work, I think. So I'm going to make sure that we really turn up this low cut so we don't have a lot of low frequencies coming through. I turned down the high cut. This is just a ping pong delay. It's an eighth note ping pong delay that goes left and right.
Your small hand us back to health.
And it's just going to be underneath the mix. Or at least I'm going to see if I like it better with or without it.
Started up on a hill, story that would unfold and we'd chill. Every night was the same, you and I remember when you fell, I grabbed you down to give you help, you were fine. Just a rock that cut you by surprise. That was the first time I held your small hand us back to health. You and I felt the vibe, it was time to go inside. Went inside each other's minds, pulling out emotions, and you and I were talking endlessly during the nights. You and I
Okay, do I like it better without it?
started up on a hill, story that would unfold and we'd chill. Every night was the same, you and
Or with it?
I remember when you fell, I grabbed you down to give you help, you were fine. Just a rock that cut you by surprise.
I think I like it better with, but I'm not sure about the delay sound still. Now, I'm going to try to switch it because there's, in the stock plugin in Studio One, analog delay, there is a preset that really seems to work well. I forget which one it is, but it's one of the first ones here. So let's see.
Every night was the same, you and
Come on.
I remember when you fell, I grabbed you down to give you help, you were fine. Just a rock that cut you by surprise. That was the first time I held your small hand us back to health. You and I felt the vibe, it was time to go inside. Went inside each other's minds, pulling out emotions, and you and I were talking endlessly during the nights. You and I, not the same, let's give it a try for a while, turn back time. Started up on a hill, story that would unfold and we'd chill. Every night was the same, you and
So here's the Valhalla delay
I
again.
remember when you fell, I grabbed you down to give you help, you
I think that Valhalla delay sounds too modern. It sounds too clean. I
were
think
fine.
something like this.
Rock that cut you by surprise.
Now, it might be a little bit too much the other direction now, but maybe not if we move this low cut up here. I think I like this. I think I like this. And the reason I like it is because it reinforces that retro analog super old sound that we already have with that room reverb over here, right? So it's the reason I think that I didn't like this Valhalla delay preset that we had here is because it sounded too modern and clean. It sounded too hi-fi, and it almost clashed with this very retro analog sound that we have with this room reverb as well as the slap delay. So I think this delay here, which I'm just gonna label this like old delay or something, that should be fine. So this delay here, I think, is just fits better in this mix because
Started up on a hill, the story that would unfold and we shall. Every night was the same, you and I.
obviously we can't have it too high in the mix or
I
it's
remember when you fell. I crouched down to give you help, you were fine. Just a rock that caught you by surprise. That was the first time I held your small.
So that's it, my friend. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this video. Now, once we get to the automation phase, we might still do a couple automation moves or maybe a couple delay throws or reverb throws, whatever the case, you know, we still have some time to play around with that stuff. But I think we have just an incredible difference, and we've moved this song forward so many steps just by focusing in and blocking out this time to add some reverb and delay to it. So now let's do a little before and after. I'm going to turn off all the reverbs and all the delays, and here is what it sounded like before, and then we'll go after.
Started up on a hill, the story that would unfold and we'd chill. Every night was the same, you and I. I remember when you fell. I crouched down to give you help, you were fine. Just a rock that caught you by surprise. That was the first time I held your small hand as work for a while. The work that we worked for so hard is completely lost, not in the dark, you and I. Not the same, let's give it a try for a while. Turn back time, you and I. You and I. Not the same, I'll take the blame one more time. Please don't hide.
Yeah, that is reverb and delay for this indie rock vocal mix. Thank you so much for watching. Now let's move on to the automation phase where we will probably wrap up the video or wrap up this indie rock series rather. Although I might need to squeeze in another one before we completely finish it. But I'll decide that. We'll figure that out once we get there. So let's just go ahead and we'll move on to the next video.